안녕하세요. That's my only trial I'm going to try today. How are you today? Good. Oh no, we lost you. Okay. I know that you have been crushed with a lot of numbers from Professor Alice to the ambassador to our director. And I know it's like those numbers are depressing, especially if you are a young person trying to navigate your way around. And then here comes AI and just swipes everything you know, changing your career perspectives, telling you that everything that you have in your phone is a kind of bias or discriminatory. It's not a good start of the day. But I promise you, there will be a happy ending by the end of the day because you're going to change all of this. I'm super happy to have all of those young women all around working in this solution. So, how did all of this happen and why? Where are we today? And where are we going? This is what we're going to cover in my next 20 minutes. So, let's start with where all of this happened, the history. I bear witness to how all of this happened. I was there. I'm one of those who was also were born early enough within the transition of the technology from all of those big CDs to the flash memories to the dial-in internet to that weird sound that we used to connect our phones to the modems. We've seen it all. But let me start with one huge transition that changed a lot of what we know today and caused that gender bias. Are you ready? No, I don't feel that you're excited. Are you ready? Okay, great. Once upon a time, don't fall asleep. Once upon a time in mid 80s, something big happened. Something tremendous that changed the world of technology emerged. Do you know what was that? Internet. Yeah, that was a little bit late in the 90s that became more available. It came out earlier for sure for military purposes. Something more important that affected every person on Earth. Huh? Transistors. Yeah, that was helpful, but not as important. Phones were more available, yes, but I meant video games. Video games became more available in the 80s. And retailers had a huge challenge where they would place video games in the stores. Should they leave it in the boys section or in the girls section? That was a huge challenge for a lot of businesses. And imagine all the malls all around the world is trying to struggle like, where should we put this? It's new. No one really know what it is. It used to be sold as a house appliance. It's for the whole family entertainment. But that was not selling. So businesses needed a new strategy. They needed to place it as a toy to make it more friendly for the children so they can sell more of it. But retailers chose or made that historical decision and placed it in the boys' aisles. Because they thought, boys are more into technology and girls are more into Barbies and dolls. That essential decision changed a lot in the perspectives of families, perspective of society, perspective of the schooling system that engraved that attitude that boys are interested in science and technology and engineering, and girls should be focusing on humanities, nourishing children, taking care of the family. This was not only the only factor, of course, that led to that conclusion, but it's like a simple fact that, you see how it builds up to that narrative that led to a lot of the gender gaps. If society is telling you from the very beginning, from your early childhood, that you should be focusing on jobs, certain types of jobs, and you see it in movies, you see it in the newspaper, you see it in the characters, you see it in the role model that you have, it's all pushing you toward one direction. We all know from statistics that girls kind of have higher scores in mathematics up until the age of 12, 13 years old. And then everything changed. That's the teenaging time where those gender enforcement of what a girl and a boy should look like start shaping. And society tells a girl, there's a certain job, there's a certain role you're expected to do, and you keep seeing it over and over again. And that's usually what happened with the science and STEMs. Right now, we have that number, 30% of all the AI pros or professionals are women. The same statistic for STEM, almost the same that you'll see it all around in many different sectors. It's usually, you're talking about 1 in 4 women in many of those sectors. Right now for AI, it's 30%. That also gets reduced the more technical you get, 16% in research. Women-led startups receive less than 2% of funding. Imagine if you are an amazing woman, have amazing idea, and you're looking for funding. You're way less to receive that funding, especially if you are focusing on AI and technology. That's out of the perspective that you're not expected to be good. When we're looking at that evaluation, and thanks to Professor Alice Tuja that shows some of those examples of those AI models, one of the latest evaluation of those models have shown that 44% of 133 AI systems that was assisted shows gender bias. And more than 25% of them, they have both gender and racial bias. That's a huge number. This is what we all use. I was actually surprised that there was only one person who did not use an AI chatbot from that Mentimeter. So imagine all of you, 99% of those people who are in the room, you're subject to 44% of the bias in the AI system. Some of you would actually realize it, you will see it, but a lot of us, we're not going to see it. And those numbers are very different. Women are not the same in the same bucket. If you are born in a low-income country, you are 20% less to have a connection to the internet. 20%. That's a big number of women who are not connected to the internet. We're not saying even access to smartphones. You're not even connected. You don't have connection. Imagine that panic when you were your battery is almost 20% and you're losing connection to, your WhatsApp, your email or others. There are women who literally have no connection to the world that we know. In an assessment of national policies, almost 24 out of 138 national policies that was assessed only have a reference to gender. And I'm not saying a strong reference. It's even just saying the word gender. It's showing that gender is not a topic that a lot of countries is thinking about. With that competition, with this high speed evolution and jumping into AI system, no one is really thinking about gender or women accessibility, women role in leading, making sure that also having a space on that national level to be in those national policies. And if women and girls are not mentioned in the policies, they're not going to mention in the budget. They're not going to be mentioned in the programs. They're not going to be having more attention to have more assistance to them in the national programs. So all of those numbers leads to what we know as the bias in AI. We made this inverted kind of pyramids to show you that, a lot of those factors from the bias data, from the design and algorithm, from the user, all the way to how it affects the world we know, it shapes our AI world. We're talking about artificial intelligence. We're not talking about, wisdom. And how did that happen? Let's start with data. AI is a technology that is using the data, scrubbing all the data on the internet to use it, to learn from it, to make decisions based on what we learn. But what's on the internet? The internet is our inheritance, or portion of our human civilization, digitized version of what we know as human, or what we try to do. One perfect example, one data set that is being widely used in all AI systems is Wikipedia, an encyclopedia that was created by the collection of effort of volunteers. Wikipedia, largest encyclopedia in the world, one of the main sources of AI, have a gender gap of almost 90%. 90% of the biographies on Wikipedia are about women. 19%. And the rest is about men. And that's in the most perfect version of Wikipedia, the English version. The more you go into other languages, the less you'll have that representation. So I'm sure that, when we were working on fixing the Arabic version of Wikipedia 10 years ago, that gap was 4%. We managed in a few years to make it up to 9% by the help of thousands of volunteers who wrote articles on Wikipedia, who fixed existing articles, who enriched the knowledge that is there. And why is that happen? Right now, almost 12 to 13% of the Wikipedia editors are women. 13%. So it is a history, it is an encyclopedia that is written by men, for men. If I am a man, if I am also a person who is interested in certain topics, I'll write about them, right? And if those topics are not of interest, they are not really part of what I'm interested in, I'm not going to write about them. And that's what we discovered when we were trying to fix Arabic Wikipedia. There was an invisible and a large number of women who have contributed to the history that was not added because no one was interested to write about them. And when we started doing those training to bring in the volunteers to actually identify those knowledge gaps, we managed to do that in a few years. So what we learned from that project is that, yes, the data on the internet is not complete. And if trash in, trash out. If the data is not complete, if the data is biased, it's written by certain people for certain people, is the topics is of interest of a certain group of people, then what we train AI is almost partially non-inclusive, but also discriminatory against certain people. The more you go into indigenous community, the less you'll have on the internet. Remember those 20% of women who are not connected to the internet? Those 20% of stories lost that is not documented on the internet. And if it's on the internet, it's not on the AI. So those stories that Dr. Alice was creating is built on the lack of that information and the stereotyping of the knowledge that we have. So AI is not the problem, is that AI itself is inheriting all of the inequality that we had through the thousands of years. AI is a reflection of who we are at this moment and what we have accepted to be the inequality of the world that we have. So that one part is in the data. The design itself is also who designed AI. I used to be a software developer. We only have 3 women in my class, and the rest were men. Out of those 3 ones, I remember each one of them. One of them was the smartest in the class, where she was the first to drop out because her family pressured to get her married off and settle down. Second one continued to the rest of the program and tried to get a job in IT. She managed to get in. She quit programming after 3 years, citing patriarchal, toxic masculinity, work environment. That's a small number. That's a regular number of a lot of women in STEM and technology, even if they get a job in the technology sectors, because it's a male-dominated culture, is also not supportive of women's career. There's a glass ceiling. There's a level that women will never cross to, the directors or to actual development program, which pushes women away from that sector. Third one, I haven't heard of about her. That was a while ago. So when you have the designer of the technology themselves is also from one gender, mostly from certain group, nationality, then that's also causes that in inclusive design. Imagining me as a man designing a healthcare solution for you as women. What do I know? But I have the job. I need to make it happen. So I'm just going to use all of the stereotypes that I know about it. And believe me, through all of my education on software development, I never heard of the word gender. We design for efficiency. We design for safety. We design for security, not for safety. We design to keep the money in. We design to keep, viruses out. But we never designed for human dignity. We never designed for human rights. We never designed for accessibility that would go beyond the profitable group of consumers. That probably was wrong with my software development that did not see those topics as an interest to be engraved in our education. Then you go to the user. So AI is not the only one to blame. If the user is themselves are biased, they are gender stereotyping, they are the one who is also like pushing AI to reduce malicious and abusive material, AI will also obey because AI is designed to please. It's designed to never say, no, I don't know. They're designed to always find you an answer, even if that answer is misinformation. Because AI will never say, oh, I don't know. They will try to make up something. They will hallucinate than saying, no, I don't know. And then we're now running out. We built giant machines that is all around us, and that machine needs a lot of the data. But we're running out of data. Because all of those data that we already have on the internet, they're not enough. So we are reusing the data that was generated by AI to feed AI. And I think you have already witnessed that. Now you're seeing it from most of the YouTubes and other systems that they are all videos generated by AI. There's a high increase on those technologies. So this is going to go back to train AI. So imagine all of those biased, sometimes misinformation, sometimes it's like lack of the human generated content that will refeed the internet. But then also those systems that was built on biased and discriminatory system will be the one making decision if you will get a business loan or not, or a credit card, or even get you a scholarship or other system, because now we're dependent on AI to make those decisions. So we asked different AI system to create an image of people assisting their boss. Those are all different models. And you can see from the first glance that they all have something in common. We know who is the boss, who is in the center. They're even like physically bigger and they get all the attention. They are from some certain ethnicity and they all look always sharp with the suit and glasses, just like the bros that we have. So this is what AI always think. It's always the boss is a man and then everyone also an assistant. Ambassador, we're talking about Alexa and AI assistant. They all were designed as women because women have always taken that role as a secretary, an assistant, but not in the center of the job. So this is what AI think both look like. One of the fascinating research that we show you that, yes, this is where we are now, but where are we heading to? So I recommend that you read this brief that we collaborated with LinkedIn to produce. It's called Women in the Future Job, How AI Will Be Affecting Your Future Job. It's fascinating research. I'm just going to go quickly to some of the results just to show you a glimpse of what's in that brief that will be really important for you as student or even as a policymakers. One of the fascinating one is that skills are changing. Regardless if you change jobs or not, the skills that is needed for the job are changing. You see that there is a huge increase that you do with the expectation that from 2020 to 2023, we were expecting that the skills that would needed for any job will change by 53% by 2023. But with the emergence of generative AI, that will accelerate. So a lot of the jobs that we have now will be changing. The skills will be needed to fulfill that job by 71%. We have those kind of three categories of the jobs that will be affected. One of them is the insulated, those are the jobs that is not going to be affected that much because it does need the human interaction and does need some required skills that AI cannot really replace. Those were, veterinary, locksman, farmer, still need the human action into it. And then there is the disrupted jobs. Those are jobs that would require that AI might be able to replicate the skills. So it could be replace you, or it could be augmented where you will need, it will affect the job. It will have some of the AI could replicate some of the skills, but also could be complementing some of the skills. So those three different jobs, three different categories, every job will be affected to a certain degree. It will depend on how fast the AI will be taking. What does that mean for women? From the analysis of the LinkedIn graphics graph, we seen that women are the most affected by Gen AI. You see, even from here, this is what we expect for men, and this is what is going to be affected by females. Almost 80% of women's jobs are in the disrupted or augmented sector. So this means it will have a massive impact of where women will need to adjust. Gen AI is threatening the jobs of women. And because a lot of them, they are in the disrupted or augmented segment, this means that a lot of women might be losing their jobs or might not be able to get those jobs because they are. It's not only about getting the job or staying in the job. It's also when women switch between jobs, they are more likely to switch from a occupation that have displacement exposure. So they change from a job that could be disrupted to another job that could be disrupted, while men go for more secure jobs when they replace. They also take longer to switch between jobs. It takes them more time to go from one job to the other. And then there's a high possibility that they will be applying for a lot of the sending their application to roles in disrupted categories. This is also fascinating. It shows the changes that is happening now with AI engineering skills and AI literacy skills. So you see there is definitely a gap in the AI engineering, gap that is still persistent. But what is fascinating right now is that we see also the AI literacy skills. This is like steadily growing, but this is a sharp incline, like now that we see a huge gap between also men adding their AI literacy to their profiles, and they're increasing that adjustment to do a new world where AI is almost in everything, while women are still catching up. So the research is also have a lot of recommendation around power, resources, and what would be required for a lot of the different policies. I'm not going to be reading all of them, but what does, it has a lot of recommendation that could be really valuable. So to try to infuse gender and AI in almost everything. Why is it now is very urgent to do? Because a lot of government are drafting policies, drafting regulations. They are trying to figure out what is their business model would look like. There's a high competition. We're seeing from the national action plan from the US, from China. Everyone is deregulating, putting down guardrails. No one is pushing for protection, especially for those groups who's going to be affected by loss of jobs or how AI is going to impact them. No one is thinking about women in particular. Everyone is driving so fast to get to the best model, the strongest that they can be proud of, that will give them that competitive edge. So this means that your voice is way needed right now to make sure that women and girls are also being considered on those policies. It's part of why we're also looking into a solution that we from UN Women, we try to build a movement of women in AI, women in policy making, or women who are designer of the AI, who can influence those system, who can reduce them, and hopefully the next big startup will be led by women. So our AI school is looking into building that community where we want everyone, especially those who are in the universities, to look up for solutions, to have a space when they can also write papers, can drive solution. And this is not only just women and girls. We also need men and boys to be part of the solution, because gender equality needs everyone to be there. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you. We will have another cohort of the AI school coming up. It's a public for the whole region. And I know that there's a couple of actually students here from the AI school. You can reach out to seek more information of how to get more involved. And thank you so much for the time. And I'll be happy to answer any question.
We'll take answers at the end of the session. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emad, for your insights. So moving on, we'll invite Dr. Haesuk Lee, President of the Korea Center for Gender Innovations and for Science and Technology Research. Please welcome her to the stage.
네. 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 감사합니다. 네, 감사합니다. 저는 이렇게 초대해 주셔서 감사하고요. 저는 약간 마이크로한 이야기를 하게 될 것 같습니다. 오늘 제가 젠더드 이노베이션이 무엇이고 왜 필요한지를 여러분들이 공감하고 가신다면 제가 오늘 얘기하는 목표는 달성하지 않을까 그렇게 생각을 하고요. 오늘 특별히 이제 이 컨퍼런스를 이화여자대학교 김수경 선생님이 AI 전공이신데 이 인클루시브 AI를 주제로 하신 거를 정말 감사하게 생각합니다. 왜냐하면 AI를 전공하시는 분들은 그 인클루시브한 거를 얘기하시는 분들이 굉장히 소수이신 것 같아요. 대부분은 디벨로핑 하시는 데 관심이 많으시고 어떻게 하면 더 기술적으로 더 좋은가를 이제 에 관심이 더 많으시고 학생들의 경우에는 빨리빨리 많이 해야 하는 게 좋다. 뭐 이렇게 생각을 하시는데 저는 어떤 면에서는 좀 베이직으로 돌아가는 게 좋다 하는 말씀을 좀 드리려고 합니다. 순서는 이런데요. 사실 AI를 아까 한 명만 안 써보시고 다 쓰신다고 굉장히 우리가 많이 쓰고 있고, 실제로 어떨 때는 연구원들이 옛날만큼 많이 필요할까 할 정도로, 리포트 아주 그럴싸하게 잘 씁니다. 또 매일같이 생활에서는 이제 진단을 한다거나, 또는, 어, 주행도 이제 운전도 옛날보다 훨씬 쉬워지셨죠. 그래서 굉장히 좋은 점이 많은 반면에 아까 그 염려하시는 걸 보니까 교육과 취업, 그러니까 직장 이런 거에서 이제 관심들을 굉장히 크게 갖고 계신데 그거 외에도 죽느냐 사느냐의 문제도 있다 하는 말씀도 저는 여러분과 오늘 함께 이야기를 나누고 싶고 그리고 학생들이 그 AI를 전공하는 대부분의 많은 학생들이 생각하는 것처럼 교육, 빨리빨리 많이 만드는 게 정말 돈을 잘 버는 걸까 하는 거에 대해서도 다시 한번 좀 생각하는 계기가 됐으면 좋겠습니다. 그래서 예로 좀 시작을 해보겠습니다. 코로나 그 19 때에 굉장히 이제 대면하지 않는 많은 것들이 특히 의료 분야에서 각광을 받기 시작했는데 2019년에 영국의 바빌론 헬스라는 회사가 뭐 의사, AI 디벨로퍼, 그다음에 이제 기초과학자들까지 다 모여서 건강 챗봇을 하나 만들었어요. 투자도 굉장히 많이 받았고 그렇게 됐는데 실제로 굉장히 치명적인 거를 보여줬습니다. 어, 이제 가상의 남녀가, 여기에 데이터는 영국의 그 국립보건원의 데이터를 썼고요. 그러니까 데이터가 굉장히 좋다고 생각할 수 있잖아요. 국립보건원 데이터를 썼는데 팔 저림과 뭐 가슴에 약간 메스꺼움, 가슴에 약간 통증을 호소하는 가상의 남녀 2명한테 완전히 상반되는 이제 조언을 합니다. 2명은 다 똑같고요. 모든 생활 패턴이나 뭐 증상이 다 똑같고 다만 다른 거는 하나는 남자고 하나는 여자라는 거예요. 근데 가상의 남자한테는 즉각 이머전시로 가라고 조언을 하고 여자한테는 그냥 한 며칠 쉬어봐서 계속해서 증상이 비슷하면 가정의를 만나라고 합니다. 남자한테는 심장마비가 일어날지도 모른다고 생각을 했고 여자한테는 공황장애나 뭐 그냥 우울증 같은 증세라고 생각을 한 것입니다. 만약에 여자가 심장마비였다면 죽었겠죠. 저렇게. 그래서 이제 죽고 사느냐의 문제가 AI를 통해서 나올 수가 있어요. 근데 이거는 사실은 AI의 잘못이라기보다는 이렇게 진단한 것이 그 진단에서 이루어졌던 일들입니다. 그러니까 여성과 남성의 증세가 조금 다르고 여성들이 이런 그 비슷한 증상을 이제 가서 호소를 하면 의사들은 우울증이야. 그래서 이제 실제로는 심장마비나 심장질환으로 죽는 사람이 남성보다 더 많습니다. 그러니까 죽고 사느냐의 문제가 될 수 있겠죠. 또 비슷한 예로 바이오 마커들도 남성 위주로 되어 있는 게 굉장히 많기 때문에 그 이제 간 질환에서 남성보다 여성이 훨씬 더 진단을 적게 제대로 못 받고 있습니다. 이런 것들도 이제 그 그러니까 이거는 데이터가 그냥 작다. 그러니까 여성이 남성을 더 많이 썼다의 문제가 아니라 실제로 아까 심장마비 같은 경우는 데이터에 적고 큰 거의 문제가 아니라 데이터 자체가 잘못된 거에 문제가 있는 것입니다. 그러니까 이거는 사실 AI 디벨로퍼들의 문제라기보다는 기초의학의 문제일 수가 있습니다. 근데 우리가 그런 것들을 얼마나 많이 알고 있을까 하는 생각을 해보게 됩니다. 이거는 너무나 많이 알려져 있는 바이어스의 한 예인데요. 어, 얼굴 인식 알고리즘에서 이제 그 남성을 여성보다 훨씬 더 정확하게 인식하고 특히 피부색이 진한 여성은 잘 인식을 못한다. 근데 이거를 발견한 사람은 얼굴색이 짙은 MIT의 학생이었어요. 그러니까 사실 AI 바이어스는 많은 경우에 잘 발견이 되지 않는다는 것들도 있습니다. 어찌 생각하면 얼굴 인식 좀 잘못한 게 뭐 그렇게 치명적일까 그렇게 생각하실 수도 있지만 요즘에는 얼굴 인식이라든지 음성 인식을 다 포함해서 이제 이모셔널 AI 같은 것들도 나오고 있고요. 거기에서는 얼굴 표정이나 음성 이런 걸 통해서 이제 이 사람들의 그 건강 상태를 체크할 수도 있고 마케팅을 할 수도 있고 굉장히 많은 일들을 할 수가 있습니다. 이거는 아까 두 사례보다는 약간 고치기가 좀 쉽습니다. 왜냐하면 데이터를 그렇게 잘 넣으면 돼요. 비슷비슷하게 이제 다양하게 잘 넣으면 됩니다. 근데 아까 두 개의 example은 데이터 자체가 과학적으로 잘못되었다는 데 문제가 있는 것이니까 다른 이슈이기도 합니다. 그래서 우리가 데이터가 정말 문제다라고 할때 그 데이터가 어 그냥 뭐 언더 레프리젠트 된 걸로 끝날 수 있는 문제가 아니고 데이터 자체가 잘못되어 있을 때 또는 적지만 문제가 있을 때 이런 것들을 어떻게 보정하느냐 하는 것은 사실은 AI 디벨로퍼들하고 같이 기초과학에서 연구를 해야 하겠지만 그 중간중간에 이제 여기에 이르게 될 때까지 데이터가 좀 공정하게 될 때까지 다른 방법들은 없을까 하는 생각도 하게 되고, 그거는 일부 AI의 기술로도 현재 좀 이렇게 고쳐지고 있다고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 이제 지금 말씀드린 것처럼 사실은 데이터가 굉장히 문제다 하는 얘기를 많이 하는데 우리가 모든 오랜 그 생활 동안 쌓아놨던 그런 스테레오타입이 있는 데이터도 있지만 과학 데이터는 굉장히 이제 잘 되어 있을 거라고 생각하는데 그렇지 않다는 말씀을 제가 오늘 드리려고 하는 거고요. 그러면 그 과학적인 데이터를 어떻게 샘플하고 어떻게 처리하고 이런 것들이 이제 AI 디벨로퍼들과 함께 일을 해야 되는 것들이라고 생각을 합니다. 물론 이제 그 알고리즘 안에서의 바이어스의 문제도 굉장히 심각하고요. 예컨대 아까 레이셜 바이어스 같은 경우도 말씀하셨는데 의료비를 많이 쓰는 사람과 의료비를 적게 쓰는 사람이 누가 더 건강할까요? 그러니까 알고리즘을 만들 때 의료비를 하나의 파라미터로 집어넣으면 병원을 잘 못 가는 사람은 진단할 때 건강한 사람으로 체크가 됩니다. 의료비를 조금 쓰기 때문에. 그래서 오히려 정말 그 진단이 더 취약한 계층이 더 건강한 거로 된 사례들도 많이 있습니다. 그래서 이제 미국에서 아프리칸 아메리칸 같은 경우에는 진단이 백인들보다 훨씬 늦어진다는 그런 이제 연구 결과들도 있습니다. 물론 이제 사람들이 그 디벨로퍼 그 환경이 AI를 그 만드는 환경이 이제 여성이 남성보다 훨씬 적다 이런 이슈도 있지만 그거 외에도 기술이 어떻게 우리한테 온다고 생각하세요? 누군가가 기술을 만들어야 되죠. 근데 대부분의 많은 기술들이 남성이 주로 대부분의 기술들이 대부분 남성에 의해서 남성의 기준으로 만들어지고 그다음에 남성한테 테스트를 한 다음에 우리한테 옵니다. 사용하는 사람은 남녀노소 모두 다 쓰고 있고 그 어드밴스된 기술을 만든 그 서양이라기보다는 전 세계가 지금 쓰고 있는 거고 특히 AI 같은 경우는 더 그렇기 때문에 이런 문제를 우리가 굉장히 그 안을 촘촘히 들여다봐야 된다고 생각합니다. 물론 유저의 문제도 굉장히 있겠죠. 그래서 많은 예제들은 사람들이 또 어떻게 사용하느냐에 따라서 새로운 바이어스를 만들고 AI한테 잘못 가르쳐서 사용하는 과정에서 잘못 가르쳐서 새로운 바이어스를 재생산할 뿐만 아니라 뭐 더 이제 앰플리파이 한다 이런 이야기들도 많이 있는데요. 사실은 그것만 있는 게 아니라 처음부터 잘못된 것들이 있을 뿐만 아니라 투자자가 어디에다가 프라이어리티를 두고 투자를 하는 데에도 달려 있습니다. 그래서 기술의 얼굴은 정말 굉장히 많은 사람의 그걸 거쳐서 나오는 것 같아요. 그러니까 예컨대 제가 이제 드리려고 하는 말씀은 과학자들이 굉장히 오랫동안 남성을 기준으로, 메일을 기준으로 꼭 사람이 아니라 메일을 기준으로 연구를 해왔고, 그 다음에 정책도 과학기술 지원 정책도 거기에 대해서 뭐라고 말한 적이 한 번도 없습니다. 그 다음에 이제 투자자가 어디에 우선하느냐 하는 이슈도 있을 수 있고요. 무엇을 중요하게 생각하느냐. 그래서 뭐 정책가의 얼굴도 보이고, 그 다음에 그걸 만들어내는 사람들의 얼굴도 그 속에 있을 수가 있고, 그 다음에 사용자의 얼굴이 있을 수가 있습니다. 특히 AI는 더 그런 프로세스의 모든 거에 영향을 받는다고 생각을 합니다. 많은 분들이 AI의 여성이 굉장히 적다 하는 말씀을 하셨고, 그래서 이제 여성의 어떤 관점이라든지 그런 것들이 포함되지 않는다는 이야기는 그냥 지나가겠습니다. 그러면 제가 앞서 말씀드린 한두 개, 그러니까 두 개의 이그샘플이나 이런 것들이 다 사람하고의 관계만 있는 것 같아서 바이오 그 메디컬 분야만 문제가 있냐? 그렇지 않습니다. 사실은 거의 모든 분야에 되어 있고요. 이미 들어보셨겠지만 자동차 충돌 시험을 할 때 대부분의 그 더미가 남성을 기준으로 한 더미였고, 따라서 이제 같은 사고가 났을 때 뭐 여성이 다친 부상의 부위가 다르고 부상의 정도가 굉장히 다르다. 특히 뭐 한 47%가 더 나온다. 이런 이야기를 하고 있고요. 이미 들어보셨을 거예요. 그런데 왜 그러면 더미를, 여성 더미를 안 쓸까요? 돈이 들어서입니다. 그리고 여자는 작은 남자가 아니에요. 그러니까 이게 이제 여성이 문제가 되니까 그냥 그 평균 치수를 줄여갖고 이렇게 더미를 만드는데, 여자는 작은 남자가 아니라는 게 굉장히 중요한 이슈입니다. 그리고 그래서 이제 미국에서도 페어 크래시 액트라는 법안이 상정이 됐었는데 아직도 통과가 안 되고 있습니다. 지난 2년 동안. 그러니까 이게 굉장히 지난한 문제들인 것 같아요. 어찌 보면 굉장히 당연한 것 같은데 안 이루어지고 있다 하는 것들이 이제 우리 모두가 이런 데 인식을 갖고 관심을 갖고 표현을 하는 게 굉장히 중요하다고 생각합니다. 그래서 제가 이제 제목에서 말씀드린 그럼 젠더 대 이노베이션이 도대체 뭐냐? 특히 과학기술에서. 이거는 그 우리가 과학 연구를 할 때 과거에는 그 기준이 뭐 메일인지 피메일인지 또는 아무건지 아무것도 생각을 별로 안 하고 했어요. 그리고 동물 실험을 할 때는 피메일은 이제 그 호르몬 주기라든지 그런 것 때문에 대부분 다 메일 애니멀을 선호를 하고 대부분 메일 애니멀을 썼습니다. 남녀를 차별하기 위해서라기보다는 임상 시험을 할 때도 여성을 보호하는 차원도 약간 들어가서 주로 이제 메일을 대상으로 임상 시험도 많이 했어요. 근데 이제 문제가 있다는 걸 많이 알게 되고 나서부터는 그 바이올로지컬한 섹스뿐만 아니라 소셜 섹스인 젠더까지를 포함하는 특성이 굉장히 다르기 때문에 섹스와 젠더를 바탕으로 한 분석을 연구의 시작부터 데이터의 수집과 관리, 그 다음에 보고하는 데까지 해서 새로운 가치를 만들어내는 게 굉장히 중요하다. 그러니까 새로운 이게 말하면 굉장히 쉬운데요. 여태까지 과학자들이 해오던 것과 다른 방법을 써야 되기 때문에 메소돌로지도 개발을 해야 되고 이런 이제 운동들이 2000년을 한 2000년을 기준으로 해갖고 굉장히 활발하게 일어났습니다. 이거는 AI하고는 별로 상관이 없는 이슈인데 여기서 나온 데이터나 난리지들을 AI 디벨로핑에 다 쓰기 때문에 사실은 굉장히 중요한 이슈라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 네. 그래서 여기 보시면 뭐 대부분 다 아시지만 섹스는 이런 바이올로지컬한 이제 요소들을 얘기한다고 하면 젠더는 사실 뭐 성 정체성뿐만 아니라 성그 릴레이션이라든지 아니면 롤이라든지 그런 것들이 굉장히 중요한 요소가 되는데 우리나라에서는 이제 우리나라뿐만 아니라 많은 나라들이 젠더 요소에 대해서 굉장히 오해를 하고 있는 측면도 많은 것 같습니다. 그래서 네, 2분 남았다고 알려주시네요. 네, 그래서 젠더 요소라는 게 그렇게 성 정체성만 얘기하는 게 아닌데도 오해에 의해서 섹스나 젠더를 기반으로 연구를 해야 된다 그러면 이거는 그냥 DEI를 말하는 거구나. 그리고 밴하는 경우도 있습니다. 사회에 따라서는요. 네. 이렇게 보시면 이미 굉장히 많은 질병에서 또는 이제 기초 연구에서도 남녀가 다른데 병이 일어나는 경우도 다르고요. 원인은 아직 잘 모르고 그래서 알츠하이머 같은 거는 여성이 남성의 2배 정도 되는데 어티즘 같은 거는 오히려 남성이 여성의 4배 정도 되는 걸로 알려져 있습니다. 약 같은 것도 부작용이 굉장히 다른데요. 80%, 즉 10개에서 8개가 여성한테 부작용이 더 많았고, 이런 것들이 이제 다 알려져 있습니다. 그래서 약을 개발할 때는 남녀의 특성을 이제 섹스 앤 젠더 베이스드 어널리시스가 굉장히 필요하다는 게 알려져 있는데 실제로는 그렇게 진행하고 있지는 않습니다. 그래서 특히 이제 작년에 나온 그 보고서에 그 WEF 월드 이코노믹 포럼에서 나온 보고서에 의하면 이제 이 여성의 건강 형평성을 만들어내면 그 만드는 과정에서 1조 그러니까 1조 맞죠? 1 트릴리언 달러의 가치가 있다. 이런 것도 이제 에 대해서 언급한 보고서도 있습니다. 그리고 이제 나머지 2개는 그냥 보시면 되고요. 그럼에도 불구하고 최근까지도 그 남성과 여성의 그 특성을 살리는 그렇게 약을 개발하진 않습니다. 그래서 가장 최근의 예로는 아까 알츠하이머가 여성이 남성의 2배나 더 많이 발병한다고 했음에도 불구하고 이 르케나맘이라는 약이 인지 기능의 저하를 그러니까 좀 천천히 가게 하는 약인데요. 우리나라에서는 유일하게 그 허용이 된 약이에요. 그런데 최근의 연구 결과에 의하면 이 약은 남성한테는 도움이 되지만 여성한테는 거의 도움이 되지 않는다. 그러니까 사실은 돈을 웨이스트할 뿐만 아니라 그 건강 형평성에 전혀 도움이 안 되는 그런 사례들이 지금도 일어나고 있고 우리나라를 비롯한 굉장히 많은 나라들이 신약을 개발할 때 AI 드리븐 신약 개발을 많이 하고 있습니다. 거기서는 사실 이렇게 하기가 되게 쉬워요. 왜냐하면 남성 모델을 하나 만들면 여성 모델도 만들면 되거든요. 근데 AI를 써서 개발하시는 분들이 이런 사실을 모르기 때문에 대부분 남녀 모델을 따로 만들지 않고 그냥 모델 하나만 갖고 한다고 들었습니다. 그래서 이제 AI로 뭔가를 그러니까 데이터를 굉장히 사이언티픽 데이터를 쓰시는 분들은 이 분야에 있는 사람들과 굉장히 긴밀하게 함께 연구하는 게 필요하다 하는 말씀을 드리고 싶고요. 그래서 이제 아까 이유 대사님께서도 호라이즌 유럽에 이제 우리나라가 가입을 했다고 했는데 거기서는 성별 특성을 반영한 섹스 앤 젠더 베이스드 어널리시스가 연구 제안서를 쓸 때 필수 요건입니다. 우리나라도 법에서는 그렇게 하도록 되어 있습니다. 그런데 또 한편으로 중요한 게 연구자의 자율성이잖아요. 우리나라에서는 연구자의 자율에 맡겨졌습니다. 그런데 이렇게 그 여태까지 해오던 연구의 패러다임을 바꾸는 것은 굉장히 어려운 일인 것 같습니다. 그래서 잘 안 되고 있는데 이제 호라이즌 유럽에 가입하고 이제 우리나라 연구자들이 국제 공동 연구를 많이 한다거나 그쪽에 이제 어떤 요구 조건, 맨데토리인 조건들을 보면은 좀 좋아지지 않을까 그런 생각을 하고요. 저는 사실 AI를 사용도 하고 또 굉장히 AI의 발전에 관심이 많은 사람입니다. 막 이렇게 제가 한 얘기를 들으시면 좀 이렇게 기술 발전을 발목을 잡는 사람이 아닌가 이렇게 생각하실 수 있는데 그건 아니고요. 제가 생각할 때는 AI가 지금까지 그 성별 특성을 반영하는 연구를 잘 못한 것들을 AI를 써서 굉장히 또 값싸게 쉽게 할 수도 있다고 생각합니다. 특히 이제 최근에 많이 나오는 에이전틱 AI 같은 것들은 AI들을 서로 연결하는 이슈들이 있고요. 또 그다음에 가디언 에이전트라 그래가지고 실제로 AI가 문제가 있는지를 체크하는 그런 이제 에이전트들도 나오고 있잖아요. 그런데 이게 아는 게 굉장히 중요한 것 같아요. 뭐 페이셜 알고리즘, 뭐 아까 그 여러 가지 바이어스가 되는 거를 체크할 수가 있어요. 그 다음에 또 시큐리티도 체크할 수가 있고. 근데 이제 제가 오늘 말씀드린 것 같이 그런 마이크로한, 사이언티픽한 거에 대해서는 알지 못하면 사실은 체크하지 못할 것입니다. 그래서 이제 이런 기술의 발달과 더불어 가장 바닥에, 가장 원천이 되는 베이직 사이언스에서의 성별 특성에 대해서도 우리가 관심을 기울일 때라고 생각합니다. 경청해 주셔서 고맙습니다.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lee, for gender innovation and the impact on the healthcare sector. So our next speaker is Dr. Kalai Ramia, a co-founder and CTO of Planet AI. Please welcome her to the stage.
안녕하세요. So hi everyone, my name is Kalai Ramia. I'm an AI scientist and also a co-founder and CTO of an AI startup, one of the 2% that raised VC funding according to Emad. So I'm going to be talking about digital divide in general and also how does it affect in the two existential crises that we're facing in our lifetime, which is AI and climate change. So when Claire asked a question, like, how does AI and gender bias affect different domains? I was looking to see if anyone said climate. I didn't see that. So hopefully by the end of this talk, you can see how that affects in the biggest challenge of our lifetimes. So as we all know, climate change is here. Every other day we see it on the news about like erratic and increasing extreme weather events in the form of wildfires, floods, and heat waves. And also much beyond that, there is an increasing volatility of what we have seen in the weather. Our parents and grandparents' generations, like that knowledge of how the weather appeared, does not hold true for us anymore, for our present generation and also for future generations. What does this mean? The past data we cannot apply to our future generations' training for any of the models that we do. And this is a huge challenge. And as we go to this new normal, we need detailed roadmaps to adapt to this. And that was the reason why my co-founder and I founded Planet to bring knowledge from the latest advances in AI and climate science from the research world to the real world, so we can empower communities and businesses so that they can adapt to disasters and how can they prepare better and so on. So as every one of you know, there's a huge language model war that's going on in the AI world right now. Like every other month, we see a release of new language model from Gemini and other things. Silently, there is a race on AI weather models. So what does this mean? These are very powerful. These models are compared to traditional models. Traditionally, if you look at a climate scientist or a weather scientist, how they would train a weather forecast is they would take all kinds of data available from the ocean, the atmosphere, sea ice, and land. They will solve the physical equations for each grid on the Earth. And that takes like extensive amount of computation and power, and also like very skillful knowledge on how to run these models. And very recently, these AI weather models have revolutionized that landscape. Nowadays, we can generate fast forecasts, so we can get these weather forecasts in a record amount of time. And that's super useful when we look at climate change and how we need to prepare for disasters. Now, there is a reason I put these models on a map. Most of these models are concentrated on the global north. So with the US leading it, followed by the EU and some from China. And the unfortunate thing is, all the climate disasters and the most vulnerable regions are mostly present in the global south. And not only they don't have the capability to build these models, they don't even have the capability to run them and make use of those forecasts. Now, if you look at, say, GraphCast, I mean, if you ask them like, hey, can we get a weather forecast for Africa? They say like, sure, we run global models, like, just take it and use them. But the thing is, like all the data set that they are being trained on, they are optimized for the US and EU. And if you just take the weather forecast and use that for Africa, it doesn't even agree. It's misleading at the best case. Now, that's very unfortunate because as Professor Lee mentioned, it's about life and death when we are thinking about these weather forecasts. And it's not just true for healthcare, it's true for climate also, as we are seeing more and more disasters. So I want to draw on our experiences from our recent trip to Ethiopia. So this is our Planet team. We went to a village in Dorze, Ethiopia. What you see here, these are called enset. It's a false banana crop. This is one of the miracle crops in Ethiopia. This is one of the staples that people use. And most of the farms, they're owned by women farmers, women smallholder farmers, who are very dependent on it for their livelihoods and lives. So when we went there, so we wanted to talk to the farmers and understand how we can provide weather forecasts and see how they can make use of this. So our first question was like, hey, what's going on? Like, how are you using weather? For them, I think the biggest challenge is like, yes, this NSET crop is called miracle crop because it's very drought resistant. So they can plant it any time when they want to grow without losing a lot of money. But they would also want to grow coffee or potato when the weather is right. So it's a traditional knowledge, like they have passed on it from thousands of years. That doesn't apply to them anymore. Even though the farmers are illiterate, they're realizing climate change is happening because the parents and grandparents have thought about the rainy season. It's not happening at the same time. And so they want to know, like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. So, okay, first question was like, if we provide the weather forecast, will you use it? So they thought for us some time, and then they said, sure, but you cannot forecast weather because it's God's will. So, and the reason, like, we thought, like, why was it the case? Because in Africa, if you, there's something called nowcasting. So what that means is take up your phone, say if it rains on the phone, and if you look outside, it rains. It's mostly true in the global north regions. In the US, it rains and it rains. But it does not true in Africa. If you look at the nowcast, it's not even true. So if can say it's raining and it can be bright as sunny. And this is because they don't even have radar stations and meteorological stations. And that's why there's no trust on the system. When someone says the weather forecast, it's a joke at that point. So we had to get that barrier. Okay, so we talked to the universities. We set up meteorological stations. We can get the satellite data, calibrate them, and make them use it. Okay, we get past that. Then our next question was like, how do you access these forecasts? And we are from Silicon Valley, right? I mean, for us, everything is an app. Like, we put everything in an app. We make an interactive app, flashy UI. But most of these farmers don't even use phones. Forget about smartphones. So in the community space, like where there's a community elder who has an old Nokia phone where they immediately get text messages. And they rely on radio communication for most of the things. And sometimes it's like a verbal, like transmission, like, goes from one farm to another. And this is where the larger farm owners, they get the information from the government or wherever immediately. And then it trickles down to smaller farm owners who are mostly women. And at the time that they reach it, it's too late and their lives are at risk. So, and like Emad said, like, this is a huge issue. 2.3 billion people are offline, according to the UN's International Telecommunication Union. And if you look at where are these people located, it's mostly in the global south. It's Africa, Southern Asia, and Southern America at some point. And what's even worse, so when something is a scarce commodity, when something is rare to get, then it becomes very competitive and the marginalized always lose. So that's when you start seeing the societal inequalities come in and the most privileged will get access to that. And that's happening the same with technology here. So when the internet is hard to get, who's going to get it? The most privileged society. So in the least developed countries, whoever owns the phone, the societal inequalities kick in, it's the richer people, it's the male members of the family, and the women are always left behind. And what terrifies me is this. Like it's the picture that Professor O showed in earlier. AI is going on a rocket in the global north countries, and it's exacerbating the gap that we already have that we haven't intervened. And this is going to be all of us to help reach there. So I want to give another example on how the intersection between AI, climate, and gender comes into place. So this is Bangladesh. Bangladesh is on the front lines of climate change. So it experiences devastating floods every once in a while. It's on the news. And what happens is it's mostly women who are getting affected. Why? Because women led households are at the margins of the society. They live near the coast. And they, as a result, experience miscarriages because the salinity levels are increasing, the heat waves are coming on, and they are the ones who are losing it. And I want to give an interesting study that came out. This is on a recent flood that happened in Bangladesh. So this was a trustworthy forecasting system, right? They anticipated the flood is going to happen. Then the government sends out alerts. And who gets those alerts? The male members, because they have ownership of the phone. And the women, they have strict gender roles, so they cannot like move out of without the male members' permission. They are waiting to hear from the male members for evacuation. So that particular flood, the majority of the casualty were women and children. So that was like a wake-up call for the country, and they set up special task forces to see, like, how can we actually get these forecasts and alerts to the women without, the interference of the technology. So no matter how trustworthy a system is, if that's not inclusive, it's not going to reach the people. So this is a lesson we are learning with our Ethiopian farmers. The technology has to meet the people where they are. And at most of these times, if you want to think about the digital divide, it's like using low-tech delivery modes. If that means radio transmission using Amharic or Gamo to reach them, then that's what it is. So most of our AI researchers and data practitioners, we should come out of our bubble in terms of like, how can we build flashy UI and all of that, and see like where people are right now and how can we make it accessible to them. So here are some final thoughts on how can we bridge the digital divide. And I'm talking about AI and climate. It can be AI for healthcare, like Professor Lee said, or any domain for that matter. First is access, whether it's telecommunication, internet. Half of the world is struggling to achieve that. So we should be cognizant of that. It's easy to be in a tech bubble and think that everyone has access to it, and that's the blind side that we have. We should be able to come out of it and see what the rest of the world has. And what that means is building infrastructure in terms of like, network communications or data centers for the universities in Africa or other parts of the world, or even like equipping the people, the local people with their homegrown apps. No matter what we do, it's not like they bring their indigenous knowledge and digital knowledge that they have grown in. They should be able to bring their knowledge in there. So that's something we have to do, which comes to literacy. So we are working with the local universities in Ethiopia to fund their students so we can do this calibration of the satellite data that we are receiving, which were optimized for US and Europe. So at least that's a start, right? So they know how to do those things. And as a result, all the knowledge that we are sharing, it should be made open source. So at least some of it, I understand there might be business concerns here and there, but making open source helps them learn about all the things that we are doing and then like leapfrog those limitations that we already experienced in developed world. And finally, data. Most of our countries where we are living are data abundant. We should be cognizant of the fact that some of the countries are not data abundant, so they are struggling to achieve that. And some of this can be solved by infrastructure, but most of it is like us researchers and scientists sharing the knowledge and data so that they can build their own system to navigate these challenges. So it's a short talk. That's all I have. Happy to chat further if you have any more questions. Thank you.